this book right here. Can you see it? Can you see this? I just asked her if she drew this because I always wonder, oh, my hair's in the way. Does this outfit make me look bald? Does it? Do you think people notice you're bald or your fabulous outfit? So I'm going to let Jen take over and tell us who you were before you were diagnosed, before you joined the club, the cool club.
The cool club.
Cool, all right.
So before, like way back in my other life, which feels like it was a million years ago, I was just, average mom working in the fashion industry,
And how many
taking care
kids
of.
do you have? Do you have three?
I have two boys.
Two boys.
I have two boys who, when I was diagnosed, were 9 and 11. And we didn't even have like anybody that ever had cancer in my family except for one, aunt who I wasn't even related to by blood. So it was such a foreign word to me. So when the doctor called me to tell me that it was cancer because I had found this lump in my breast, I went, oh, but it's not breast cancer, right? And he went, well, it is in your breast. So yes, it is breast cancer. I was like so in denial. It was scary. And it just kind of, it thrust me into this world that was never even on my radar. Never even on my radar that I would ever, I figured I'd have to contend with heart disease or diabetes. Those run in my family. At the time, I really thought that breast cancer was, in families. I didn't realize that
Right.
80% of it is not.
Isn't it funny the misconceptions that we had before all this?
Yeah, totally. Totally. And even when I went to the breast surgeon and he did the quick needle biopsy, even then he goes, oh, this is coming from a breast surgeon. It's not in your family. You're under 40. It's probably nothing. 80% or whatever it is of breast lumps that you find are nothing. And
That's right. We lost your beautiful face.
there you are. Okay, there I am. So to have that come back as positive just kind of threw me into a whirlwind. And I always say, like, the first time I got breast cancer, it was like, like you give your kid medicine because they have to take the medicine and then they like run out the door to go play. Like
Right.
that was kind of how I want, like, okay, fine, do a lumpectomy, do whatever you got to do, and let me get on with my life. I didn't realize that my life would never be the same.
So your first diagnosis,
Mm-hmm.
you didn't dive into the community aspect of it. You just kind of did your thing, went about your business, and tried really hard to go back to normal. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Yeah, I did. And then the thing that kept frustrating me is as I was going through all these tests and treatments and the endless torture that we have to go through, I began to realize that there's no manual for this. There's no book that addresses what it's like for a young woman to have to deal with this. And, I had been keeping like little notes of the tests that I was having and my kind of snarky, sarcastic comments about what those tests were like. And really, I was just kind of keeping them to amuse myself because I was home on medical leave and I was depressed. And I was like, all right, you know what? How am I going to make this more bearable? I mean, I had never written anything other than like, a note to get my kids out of class or to get myself out of class in high school. I'd never written more than that. So the thought of even putting a book together in the beginning wasn't even on my radar. And then the more I wrote, the more I learned about the process, the more tests that I had to be subjected to and chemo and everything else. I mean, in my head, they were going to inject me with chemo. I was immediately going to start throwing up and my hair was going to fall out, like all within 10 seconds, because that's what Lifetime told me was going to happen. Like every Lifetime movie, that's what they told me was going to happen.
When it comes to cancer. Thank you, Lifetime, for freaking with our heads.
Exactly. So in my head, that's what was going to happen. So as I began to realize it's not quite that dramatic, I started putting thoughts and notes down, and my thinking was, you know what, maybe I'll make a little pamphlet to hand out at the doctor's offices. Maybe I can help other young women. And when the pamphlet became 188 pages, I realized, well, it's a little more than a pamphlet now. But my whole mentality changed into, how can I help other young women cope with this?
Right.
How can I tell them that it's going to be okay even if it's not okay? Like I always say that. It's going to be okay even if it's not okay, because you know what? You're going to have pockets of good in this storm of bad. There's going to be
I
days that you
love
feel
that.
totally normal. Yeah, there's going to be days you feel totally normal. There's
And
going to
you
be
have
days
to
that
embrace those days.
you have to. You have to. There's going to be days that you have a conversation that doesn't involve your breasts. Which is
Right.
like, really? You're still
Does that
going to go to
happen?
school conferences. You're still going to fight with your kids, argue with your
Right.
kids, parent your kids, cook dinner. Those normal things are still going to happen. It doesn't stop. So I wanted to bring that message to other young women. Because when
Right.
I was looking at books in Barnes and Noble, everything was like, this is a great time to slow down and take a retirement package. And I'm like,
Oh
what?
gosh.
Yeah.
Retirement.
Yeah, right? What a foreign word that's become.
Right. Oh my gosh. But you are right. There really isn't anything for young people.
There wasn't.
And is the internet at fault for that? Do we tend to go to the internet more? Maybe. But,
Maybe.
and we look to, us bloggers, but to have
Yes.
a book that you can have with you while you're in the car or at a doctor's appointment or traveling, whatever, just to flip open, even if you don't read it from cover to cover, because I have to say that's one thing I love about your book. You don't have to go cover to cover. You could jump to this page. But I mean, it's like a manual. Like yes, you can go straight through it, but let's say you just want to, read in the middle of it. It still makes sense.
Yeah. Right. And it's funny because when I initially set up the book, it was in a diary format, and I had broken it out into chapters. And when I met with the editor and she looked at it and she said, I want to get rid of all the chapters. I want all the musical lyrics to bring you through the book.
Oh, that
She
was
said, because I think
brilliant.
she goes, I think that's really your personality, because I had all these musical lyrics, but I had also broken it into chapters. She goes, take out the chapters. And
She's right, because Jen, that is your personality, and that is actually
yeah,
when I look at the book and I sing the song "Girls on Film," Girls on, I almost want to make a CD of all these songs. Have you done that?
you know what? I listed them all on my website. So it's at thefashionistafights.com, and you can see all the songs that I've used in the book, and other songs that I call the B-sides, that are the songs that I didn't get to use but I wanted to use, but they just didn't fit in, or they didn't make the final edit, but songs that still mean a lot to me. And I'm like, and I always think about that. I'm like, well, I should make like if I was tech savvy, like how cool would it be to make like a breast cancer coping CD of all these songs
I always
to
think
accompany
about
the
that.
book?
Because every now and then I write,
Yeah.
like, what song moves you? And the one thing I love about you musically, and I think about this when you write a blog post, you go from, Michael Jackson to Coldplay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you have such a vast musical base. It's not one genre. And I think that's
It's
why you're
not.
so relatable to people, because the music that you choose is something for everyone.
Oh, that I'm glad. I'm really glad. There's songs that are usually very personal to me, and I've always been this music lover that has absolutely no musical ability whatsoever. I cannot play an instrument. I cannot sing. I cannot carry a tune if it was in a bag, but I love music. It
I
surrounds me
think I can
constantly.
sing. My husband's
I
always
sing
like,
great in
could
the
just
car by
stop.
myself.
Not good. Not good.
I know my kids, when they were babies, they used to say, "Mommy, stop making that noise, please." Was
How
it
did
wasn't even considered singing.
how did your kids react, not just the first time you were diagnosed, but the second time you were diagnosed?
The second time, I think, in a way, hit them harder because they had already been through it and they thought, well, we're done now. I was 5.5 years cancer free. Nobody told me that you could, I mean, I knew of recurrence, but I knew my chances of recurrence were very low because I was treated aggressively. Um, what I didn't know was that you could get a brand new cancer. No, nobody told me that, and that can happen 20% of the time, and that's exactly what happened to me. My second cancer had different properties than my first. Um, so the kids were now older; they were in high school, and I think it hit them harder because I think they felt like we're done. 5.5 years, mom's cancer free. 5.5 years, we're done, and it was tough. But I always say I think going through it the first time kind of gave them my very sick and twisted coping tools, because nothing's off the table for a joke.
Right.
I remember when my youngest son, he was little, he was 9 the first time I was diagnosed. I was yapping, of course, too long with another mother, and he rolled down the car window and he went, "Hey, chemo girl, let's go." And the other mother looked completely horrified, and I laughed because I went, "Oh no, if he can make a joke about this, then I did something right. I made this a
I
little less scary
love
for
it.
him."
I love it. And it
Yeah,
is, it does make it less scary for them. But the hard part, I
it
think, when you're, for those who are diagnosed again and the metastatic world,
yes.
when you were an early stager and then became metastatic, or when you had one cancer and then it came back another time, and with our kids, is they feel lied to. They feel like we lied to them.
Yes.
That we said to them,
Yes.
I'm cancer free, and then I'm not cancer free no more. And if we
Right.
can't, so I don't know what to do about that. Like, we're always very honest with the kids, and I always say I'm cancer. I'm there's nothing going on until my next doctor's appointment. That's what I say to my kids every single
That's
time.
yeah, that's kind of how we roll in my house too. I'm fine today.
Yeah,
Today, right now, I'm fine. That could change the next time I go to the doctor. I don't know.
and I
But for
I
right
hate
now,
talking
we're
to
okay.
them like that because I feel like
I
it
hate it.
rips away their innocence. But
It totally does. And I remember the second time I got the call at work, and I said to my husband, I said, I can't tell them again. I can't do this. And he goes, I will tell them. He goes, are you coming home? Are you going to stay at work? I said, I'm going to stay here for a couple hours because I need to process this. I can't just go running out of the office like my hair's on fire, even though that's how I felt.
right.
So when I came home, the kids were waiting there, and they both hugged me. And I always say, I go, you know, I came in and they're like, Mom, you kicked its ass once, you're gonna kick it again. You know, we're gonna be here, and we're gonna help you. And they were really, very supportive for teenagers that had to grow up very quickly. And then I always say, and then one of them cracked a fart joke, and then they began to wrestle in the kitchen. And I was like, well, okay, so for as much as everything's changed, nothing's changed.
Right, right,
They kind of still had that boyness,
right.
which I was grateful for in that moment.
So, Jen, what was your first diagnosis, and then what was the second diagnosis?
So first diagnosis was HER2 positive, ERPR negative. Very high grade, high amplification, all that, aggressive crap that you don't want to hear. Second time it was HER2 positive, estrogen positive, progestin negative. Also, though, a high grade, and they always send it out for the HER2 testing. And I knew before it even came back, I said to my oncologist, I said, they said high grade. I know that means HER2 positive. Like, at this point now, 5.5 years later, I knew what that meant. And
Right.
he said, probably. He said, but we're going to wait. And, as soon as it came back that it was HER2 positive again, but now also feeding off of hormones, which it wasn't doing the first time. You know, it meant Herceptin, and now, of course, my lovely friend tamoxifen.
Don't you love her? She's got to be a girl. She's such a bitch.
She's such a bitch. She's such a hot, flashy, nasty bitch.
She really is. She really is.
Yeah.
How did you, because I know you are a fashionista.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get through hair falling out and not feeling like crap? What were your tricks of the trade?
The first time, which I wrote about in the book, I did not have the nerve to shave my head. That was the hardest thing for me. And I remember I went to a parking lot and I actually pulled all my hair out. Like, just as it was coming out, I just kept running my hands through it. And I was,
oh my God, Jen, you just gave me the chills. Oh my God.
I couldn't bring myself to shave it. And the second time, I think it was the day after the diagnosis, I took the clippers out and I was ready to just go all Sinead O'Connor on myself. And my husband's like, hold on, we don't even know if you need chemo yet. I'm like, I'm telling you right now, my luck, I need chemo. I'm shaving my head now. So he's like, step back from the clippers, just cool it.
Put away the clippers.
Yeah, exactly. And so what I opted to do was, a couple days before my double mastectomy, I went in. My hair at this point was almost down to my elbows. It was.
I remember how long those pictures are.
Yeah, and I wound up going to a hairdresser and just had it all cut like in this super short kind of punk style, which I absolutely loved. And I kept it like that until it began falling out. And then once it started falling out, I picked up the clippers and I was going to go into the bathroom and just buzz it off. And my youngest son saw me and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, I said, "It's falling out. I got to shave it." And he goes, "Can I shave it?" I said, "Do you want to?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "You got it." I said, "Rules are, got to give me a mohawk first." So he's like, "Okay, cool." I said, "Because I've chemo tomorrow. I want to show up with a mohawk." and that's what he did. He shaved it into a mohawk, and then the next day we buzzed the rest of it off.
Oh, Jen.
But you know what? I think it helped him feel empowered. You know, we talk about empowerment all the time, about how we need to take control of our treatment and how we handle it. And I think that for him, that helped him feel in control.
Yeah, and the control and empowerment, two words I use all the time. You can't control when your doctor's appointment is. You can't control what they're going to do at that appointment. You can't control whether you're going to have chemo or radiation or what have you. You can, however, control whether you're going to pull your hair off in the parking lot, whether you're going to shave it, whether the dishes can sit in the sink, whether you're going to put the Christmas tree up now or later, or whether you're going to bake cookies. You can control all of those things. And those are the things you have to take time and control, because otherwise you lose your mind over the things that can't be controlled.
And I always tell women that's always like my go-to advice. You know, what would you say to somebody newly diagnosed? And I always said, break things down into what you can control and what you cannot control.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
There's going to be a lot you can't.
That's definitely.
With a lot you can't control. But what you can control, embrace that and focus on that, because that will help you feel, I hate to use the word victim, but less victimized by this disease.
Victim's a great word to use. You know, my doctor put me in that stupid ACE bandage after my mastectomy. I felt like the biggest freaking victim. What a way to make somebody who already feels victimized like a victim. Let's wrap them in a big freaking Band-Aid. I mean, we need things that have pretty flowers on them, or skulls, you know, I don't know, whatever it is that makes you feel powerful. I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time and chilling out with us today.
Oh, well, thank you for setting this up. This was great. It was a lot of fun.
It is fun. You know, you and I could just keep talking and talking and talking.
I know.
I got to come to the city again so we can go out.
Yeah, totally. We're overdue for some drinks.
We sure are. Well, thank you so much for hanging in the lounge. And everybody, go check out my girl's book.
Check it out.